as an investor, get into the Trump circle. If you're in the Trump circle, these are the stocks. These are the ones that are going to get deals. This is why he's in the UK. This is why he's going to sign a deal with Xi pretty soon. Every time he signs these deals, he turns around and says, here's Jensen Huang, here's AMD, here's IBM, here's BlackRock. So all these companies benefit by traveling with Trump because they're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in deals, which moves the needle for most of these companies. So from an investment standpoint, be involved in stuff like this. Ethically, I can see why you hate it. I'm curious to hear from you what you guys think.
I think this is a great conversation and starting point from a macro standpoint, because you're correct in a lot of ways, in my opinion, in theory, but in reality, where we have to live, it doesn't hold water. Not your argument, but the fact that on paper, taxpayers, you can use that very loosely, are up 50%. You and I and everybody else are never going to see any benefits from that investment or any other at all. So that's the thing. It's not like the government's going to sell this stake, put it in an account in your Social Security, or you get a tax refund check or anything else. So, that in and of itself is the great value there in me, because you have to look at the world and think, hey, this is what's going on. So from an investment standpoint, the takeaway is be invested in assets and be invested in the Trump circle. It worked during the last administration. It's going to work this one. The slippery slope is you always have to worry about the other party. And listen, I agree with Trump policies a lot more than I do the Biden administration, but the pendulum swings. And when the pendulum swings next, if and when the Democrats get elected on anything, you're going to see this plus 10,000 times, and the pedal to the metal. So that's the slippery slope, in my opinion. Plus, it's the bad incentivized. But this is the world we live in. The reason you want to own assets and such is because wealth doesn't really disappear in more than transfers. To Frank's point, when they bailed out everybody in 2008, it was a horrible idea. But guess what? That's all they have is horrible ideas. In 2020, during COVID didn't shut down the economy. The actual people in power came together and made that decision and shut down the economy. That was a stupid Florida decision too. And we're going to pay for that for the next decade through inflation and money printing. I love talking about this because I think there's value in talking about this. And yeah, email us, because what do you think about this? It's no doubt a slippery slope, but it's the difference between theory and reality. In reality, we're not going to see, but you can't invest for the reality or the way you want the world to be. You must, on the investment side, I'm not talking the gospel here, people. We're talking material shit. Money, and that's what business that we're doing. You want to be on the right side, and that's the simple takeaway.
You have an argument both ways. Like, oh, this is crazy. The government take it, say that's socialism. I get it.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I like
more like communists.
I actually like the fact that we're holding countries accountable and companies accountable, where we're not just handing over money like we do with the post office. $5 billion, $6 billion losses constantly. We don't care. FedEx and UPS, those stocks get annihilated. ArcBest, that whole industry is getting annihilated, but they still operate and have profits. Right, where it doesn't matter for the post office. Well, it would be nice if you got a rate of return, or there's some accountability when we give companies or countries this money of what's going on with this money. Well, Ukraine, we had under the previous administration a never-ending bailout of taxpayer money that was never ever going to get paid back. Now we have deals that are going to get us critical metals that we need for phones, right? Rare earth metals and things like that. So it's if we're lending you this money, or we're giving this money to the taxpayers, again, I don't know if it's going to filter down the taxpayers. Maybe it lowers our deficit. I'm sure we're not going to get checks anytime soon. But it's a really good argument to say, I like what you did with Intel, to the point where you're up 50% compared to the previous administration was just going to hand money to Intel, and Intel was not going to get a deal with SoftBank. They were not going to get a deal with Jensen Huang and Nvidia, and that money would have been a waste, because they showed in the past that they didn't know what the hell they were doing for the past 10, 15 years when it came to every single major trend across the board. I mean, where are they in cloud? Where are they in mobile? Where are they in AI? Intel dropped the ball across. It's still like laptop. Intel Inside is still their slogan for 20 years. I see the argument on both sides. I'm interested to hear from people, though. It's a very good argument, and I'm curious to see. I bet you we get lots of emails like that. I also posted it on social media. Say your thoughts. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Because I think you have arguments on both sides, which is what I love. I love debates like this, because I'm sure we're going to get a lot of good feedback. Trump was speaking in the UK, and again, whenever he speaks at these, they roll out the red carpet, and it's kind of like this circle jerk, but maybe I shouldn't say that. But it's kind of like this event where everyone's like, yeah, you're high-fiving each other, and Trump always does his thing and says, look what we did here, and look what we did there, and look how much investments and stuff like that. There's a lot of AI talk in this conversation that's going on pretty much right now as we're taping this in the middle of the day, and Trump came out with some crazy statements on AI too, and I know you listened to him too, Daniel. What were your thoughts? Because right now that meeting's going very, very well. He's also talking about China and signing a deal with China a little bit in this too, but this is live. They broadcast a little bit from CNBC, but Jensen Huang's there. You have Larry Fink there from Blackstone. Again, they all travel with him to these different places, but a lot of this focus was on AI as well.
To your point, I think this just proves that you want to be in the Trump circle. I mean, he's You're seeing deals with CEOs that are traveling around with him over in the UK. So I think this is just more of the same game plan, and I don't think you should think you've missed it. You don't have to go all in right now, but this is just another clear example and sample, of why you should be invested in assets and stick to Trump's circle.
Specifically within AI, though, he said, AI is taking over the world, quoting him. He cited Jensen Huang, he was just joking with him at the conference, like, oh, Jensen, you're taking over the world. And then he said quantum computing, fusion, 6G, not 5G, 6G, innovation. These are the words that he's using. And he said so far it's led to $350 billion in private sector deals, $136 billion from Blackstone. And he joked around Larry Fink, at this press conference, who was there.
Blackstone is Steve Sports, whatever. You're thinking of BlackRock.
BlackRock. So, yeah. So $136 billion. $136 billion investment. But, yes, thanks for the correction on that. And what he said, though, is, and I felt like this went under the radar, so much so that Daniel and I said, we got to get to YouTube because Daniel heard him say that, and I was like, I think I heard him say that. And he talked about the more need for electricity and more power and said, we need to double the amount of electricity, double what we have right now to stay ahead of the world, including China. Double the amount of electricity now. The point is, they met at the White House not long ago, a couple weeks ago. This is when they had the meeting with Tim Cook, and he's like, Tim Cook, how much was it? How much did you invest? $500 billion. Wait, what was that number? Say it again. $500 billion. That whole meeting had to do with energy. These are all the hyperscalers, everyone. Even you have Apple there, who's going to be partnering with someone pretty soon with an AI. Also near its all-time high, Apple, which is incredible. But that was about energy. How are we going to get the energy to focus on that? You have Nvidia. This is just in September. Nvidia, $6 billion deal with CoreWeave. Microsoft, $17 billion deal with Nebius for GPU infrastructure. Oracle, $455 billion backlog, which was like $100 billion or something, right? Last quarter. That's from a new contract with OpenAI, just shows the spending that's going into this industry. Anthropic just raised $13 billion, over $100 billion valuation. These deals are over the past 3 weeks alone. You have the President of the United States, the power that he has within these companies and countries saying that we need to double electricity. We're in dire need of electricity.